In my Estonian army days I noticed a need for a special product. After some research it was clear. The product has not been invented yet. Not even in China. For several years I have been prototyping and testing my invention, and the feedback from the local army has been positive. There is a lot of information how to sell and how to become a partner to the US military, but has any one of you guys actually sold products to the US military or another country? You have my attention. Yes, I have sold to the government. How far along on the development side are you? I love that it isn't something that exists and you aren't going to be responding to an RFP with a bunch of other goons. I haven't personally done this, but I recommend you look into the SPUR Small Business Innovation Research Program. You might be able to get a government grant to finish the prototype to R&D phase. Hot shit, this thread should be interesting. My thoughts as well. DoD just released their second batch of SPUR requests for this year. You can check and see if your product fits any of their advertised needs. You've got until mid-June or so to submit a proposal. I keep an eye on the DoD releases, as there's a great deal of money to be made. Unfortunately, most of them are in areas that require expertise in things I know nothing about. The product itself is ready, but the production process has to be simplified. I think plastic injection molding is the solution. In a long term it's cheaper than CNC milling. Thanks. Nice shit, man. Reminds me somehow of the movie Was Dogs, D. I sent an email to my country's Defense Investment Center. They actually liked my prototype and asked if I could make a demo day on the field. The only problem was that my prototype was made of metal. They told me that it had to be plastic. I needed a 3D printed prototype. I downloaded a CAD program and started learning how to draw. It has been a frustrating 3 weeks, but managed to create my prototype in a CAD program. At the moment I'm waiting for the 3D printing guys. A week ago a big military equipment seller called me and asked if I could meet with them. Someone from the Defense Investment Center told them about my little prototype. It turned out that the United States military contacted them and asked for a product like my prototype. Should I show them my 3D printed prototype and collaborate, or do the whole thing on my own? I once got a large order from the US military. It was a PO and the goods were shipped to Afghanistan. That was the easy part. The hard part was getting paid. I needed the person who signed off of the PO to acknowledge that they got the shipment. Problem was that when he got deployed he would be off base for weeks. I would be calling Afghanistan for weeks at 3 a.m. to try to reach him. Eventually I got paid, but I'd never do it again. They need to pay up front by credit card now. Wow, just like that, you took action and you got rewarded, just to show how. Ask them for information. Tell the general straight up, sir, I don't have enough information yet to choose my business plan to bring this design into production for you. Who can I talk with, to learn about my options to collaborate directly with you, or to first develop the business and then come back when I'm ready for mass production? Any military leader should be able to respect that you want to discover some options, so you can make an informed plan. The 3D printed prototype was brittle, but it kinda worked. I needed something stronger. After some research I found that a plastic called PA6 should work, but it had to be milled from a solid block. I contacted 7 different milling companies and all of them said that they can't do it because the shape is too difficult. Use a 3D printer, they said. A week later I found a company that uses CNC machines in their production but does not offer milling services. I went straight to the owner, told him about my problem. He agreed to help me. The company made 4 prototypes, and the best thing is that they do actually work. Demo day for the military will be in a couple of weeks. Time to practice my sales pitch. Demo day done. Lots of positive feedback even from high-ranking military officers. There are some safety issues that need to be solved, but overall the product works. The officers pre-ordered 1,000 pieces for the local army. Right now I'm writing an application for defense industry development support to help me finance plastic injection molds. If the decision is positive, then the Ministry of Defense will finance the molds and help with marketing in NATO member countries. To this day I remember my friends saying, "Dude, no one will buy your stupid invention. Do something that is actually worth something." I'm glad that I did not listen to them. This is awesome and inspiring. Congrats on the first batch order. That is crazy awesome. Rep plus S for your question, I'm not totally sure as I've never sold to the government or worked with them before. Best of luck. I've worked directly for the person in charge of acquisition as well as defense exports for the US Army. If the OP or anyone else needs a contact or advice in how to navigate US DoD acquisition or exporting defense articles from the US abroad, feel free to reach out. Is this you? Good question. Inspiring movie by the way. We have a legit fastlane, ladies and gentlemen. The Ministry of Defense approved my application. Unbelievable. The Defense Committee approves only ideas or prototypes that have a high export potential, and my prototype is one of them. Compared to others applicants, I'm basically a nobody. But finally I'm getting a chance to be in the game. The defense industry's entry barrier is high, but for me it just got like a kilometer lower. Next month I will sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense and the Defense Force. One step closer again. The only difference between a nobody and them is action or inaction. Keep executing, you're a part of them now. How inspiring. Kudos. I had never heard of the Spur before, and I'm glad I stumbled upon this thread because I'm now in the process of applying for a DoD contract. Thanks for sharing this with us so we can all benefit. I will. Thanks. I will keep you updated. Or shouldn't this be notable by now? Created a new product based on a need he saw, proved the need, got market feedback and a 1,000-piece pre-order. Marked notable. Very inspiring indeed. Love this thread and will be keeping an eye on it for sure. Glad you took action despite what everyone else said. Ms. Pakeljanis Teenizit, Palujaudu Ajaksu. Congratulations. Keep smashing those. Thanks. I was in KKRK. Kudos to Mile for starting this thread. I just submitted a proposal to the Air Force today because I was inspired by your story. Just goes to show how helpful this place is. Sent from my SMG 950U1 using TaperTalk. I was wondering if I'd ever see my job show up on here. I'm a government military in my case contracting officer. I lurk here often. I can answer some basic questions. The government buys almost everything you can think of and a lot of things you couldn't. Like what? This is a broad question. But what are some things the government wants to buy but can't find a source for? Other than DIBs, are there any other sources of open contracts waiting for bids? I know a ton go unawarded. I had the same question. And then I started Googling for government RFQ, and a ton of resources started popping up that showcase all kinds of contracts looking to be filled. One was a database of 26,000 RFQ. Check this out. The primary place to look, at least for Department of Defense contracts, is FBO.gov. It was even in that movie War Dogs, haha. I couldn't believe anyone knew enough about my job to have it in a movie. The things you couldn't think of are proprietary developmental contracts or secret products. But the DoD buys a lot of both commercially available and non-commercial military-specific products, services, and construction. Got a landscaping business? Bid on doing work for the local base. You'll need to register in the system for award management SAM. If you have a Small Business Administration SBA office near you, every state does. They also can help get you set up. By the way, the government sets aside many contract awards for small businesses only. I have awarded many millions of dollars in contracts. Government contracting seems really cryptic, but it's actually not. Granted, it's taken years to learn the nuances, but winning awards comes down to following instructions. It's not the same way you try to win business with a company. We have to follow the rules and play fair to everyone that bids. Things we can't find a source for. One thing to look for is RFI's request for information. This is one of the primary ways we do market research. We'll send these out if we're looking to see if a business capability exists for a need we have. These also go up on FBO. Gov. You don't send a bid for these, just basically reply indicating that you believe that's something we can do, or we can definitely do that type of work or product or service. Johnny, I've more experience in Spurs than I'd like to admit. Please keep us updated on your progress. Have you looked at the new OTA process? Spot on Rocket 11. War Dogs is one of my favorite movies and gave me inspiration to go out and try. I felt like a fraud, though. I had nothing to sell. I closed the business recently after only winning 2 contracts. I was solely searching one manufacturer on Dibbs. It was a race to the lowest bid. Was I willing to take a 1% margin just to win the contract? Sure. I was told, in the beginning, you're just trying to get into their system. It was a process of starting with tiny contracts to then build up. My first contract won, I lost money because the shipment to me came from 2 different places and I got charged shipping twice. My second contract I won, I profited $10, which put me back into the positive by $7. And this was maybe a 3% profit margin. There was no room for error. My imagination was that I would find the contracts that nobody was bidding on and go out there and source the products. Can't find a specific radio? Sure, I found a guy who sells them down in Alabama. Need 50 of whatever? Oh yeah, I was digging around and found someone in Idaho who is the only person in the country who supplies them. He had no idea you wanted them. But the reality? I sold nothing and manufactured nothing. Hey Department of X, I'm reaching out to you as a supplier. What do you sell? Well, nothing, but I can source whatever you need. That was the fraud in me. It didn't feel right. It was easy to go on Dibbs and pick a source gauge code and bid on 10 contracts a day, but trying to navigate the government codes and packaging, etc. and try to do it right was a little difficult. When 20 companies are bidding on one contract and everyone is quoting pennies, I just didn't see it as sustainable. A family member of mine used to work in a company who supplied to the government doing something similar, and they did $16 million in revenue in 1 year. I couldn't wrap my head around it going down the route I went, feeling like I didn't belong. For the most part, even for the small business set-asides, does the government even care where the items come from? I mean, if they want a specific office chair, do they care that I went out and sourced it from Staples and added a 30% profit margin on top of that and then reshipped it to them? I don't actually manufacture office chairs, but I can find one. I haven't actually heard of that before now. I'm wondering if the program I submitted my proposal to is within the OTA. The entire process from bid submission to contract award is only 1 month. I'll know if I'm invited to the next stage by this coming Friday. Sent from my SMG 950U1 using TaperTalk. Holy cow. I am literally jumping with excitement for you in the cafe as I'm reading this. Can't wait to hear more updates, and you're a go-getter. It's been a while since my last post. I've been improving and presenting my prototype to different military officers and forces. The mod contract helps here a lot. Next month will be the final stage testing. Hopefully, everything works out. The aim is to present the actual product at the Defense and Security Equipment International DSI Arms Fair in September that is held every 2 years in London. Some lessons that I have learned: 1. The real entry barrier is knowing people. 2 universities are interested in participating in innovative projects. 3 Make sure that you know their law. 4 Design standard solutions to your product. 5 Wear olive green clothes. I will keep you informed. Final stage testing went well. The weather was sunny and the CNC milled product worked flawlessly. Everyone was happy. So I went to a company that produces plastic injection molds and showed the CNC milled parts to them, hoping that the long CAD drawing nights would be finally over. It turns out that plastic injection molding has its limits, and out of 22 parts, they are able to produce only 14. For the past month, I have been redesigning those critical parts. Changing one part affected another and so on. I was constantly thinking about how to solve those design problems. It was a dead end. One night I asked my girlfriend how she would solve the design issue. Wait, she said. She brought her wristwatch and showed me how the lock works. And out of the blue, the eureka moment came. I was back on the highway. A couple of CAD nights and it was done. The road has been frustrating and it will probably continue this way. But I think it is worth it. I guess T. Harfika is right. Your progress is exciting. Do you have a patent or anything that will protect you in different countries? When starting with this project, I was fortunate enough to talk to some people that are in that kind of business. They said, 1. A patent will help, but the real aim should be to saturate the market as fast as possible. 2. The high entry barrier cancels out most of the competition. 3. There are some countries to whom I cannot sell this product. Wow! So much info in this thread. I'm very glad I found this. Besides selling my business and landing a big licensing deal, Gulf contracting is an amazing thing to think about venturing. My question is, do all countries have these types of programs like the US for business owners to sell to the Gulf? Hey Mile. Exciting, you're making progress. Thanks for keeping us updated. I recognize now you are in the UK and bidding on Ministry of Defense contracts. Most of my advice applied to US federal acquisitions. I'm only just replying to this because I just got back from Afghanistan. As for anyone else, I'm a contracting officer with an unlimited warrant, meaning I can sign contracts up to any dollar amount. Let me know if you have questions about federal and especially DoD contracts. I have plenty of fun experiences working with both large and small defense contractors. Trial and error again and again, but finally I have a working product and a user manual. The military wants to test the product for a couple of months and then hopefully can I make my first sale. Meanwhile, I need to apply for a NATO stock number so that other NATO members could see it in their catalog. One company even asked if I'm interested in selling my prototype and CAD files. Awesome progress, Mile, congrats. Has experience licensing IP. If you want to go down this road, I recommend you reach out to him. I've just received an email. It took some effort, but finally my little awesome invention has a legit NATO stock number. Awesome news, congrats. For anyone still following, and in the USA, there is a new website for finding opportunities to win contracts with the federal government. You'll want to look under the Contract Opportunities section of the landing page. A week ago I received a product sample request from a foreign country's defense force. I was pretty excited and still am. After some digging and phone calls, it turns out that you can't just send a product like that to another country. Tons of paperwork needs to be done. Business verification, background checks, etc. It's just frustrating. No wonder that the military stuff costs so much. Anyway, during the product testing period, I saw a need for a new product. Did some research and guess what? The same thing, it has not been invented yet. The prototype will be ready for presenting next week. A week ago I received the export license. It took some time, but finally, I've got things sorted out. Unfortunately, due to C0VLD19, there are restrictions which won't allow me to enter the country. Now I have to wait till the restrictions are lifted. I hope this C0VLD19 situation does not last for long. In the previous replay, I mentioned a new product prototype. I presented the new device to the Army personnel and law enforcement people. The feedback was very positive, and during the presentation, they even wanted to take the product for themselves for testing purposes. I mentioned that the product is a prototype that has not been properly tested yet. They did not care, because they liked the idea very much, especially from the counterterrorism aspect. They kept insisting, but I kindly refused. I will supply them with product samples this month. I got a chance to deliver the product. The foreign country's defense force representative was pretty amazed. They are testing the product and making sure that it meets the high standards. Hope it goes well. 2 weeks ago made my first sale. It took 2 years and a bunch of prototypes, but it was worth it. Awesome progress and story. To answer the initial post, yes, I have sold to the US Army in the form of advertising. I reached out to the chief of US marketing on a cold call and got the PO back about 10 days later. Still can't believe that happened because of the procurement process that is normally in place and the number of agencies the Army works with. I remember him telling me after he gave me his cell number to not use the general address because it will get lost. A little late, but DM'd me for details or help if need be. After 6 months of complete silence, I received an email from a foreign high-ranking military officer. The testing period was successful and they would like a demo day in their military base so that I could introduce the device to different military unit representatives so that they can place an order. Fingers crossed. The law enforcement people also tested the other product for 8 months, and a week ago they placed an order for the devices. I'm quite happy that hard work is finally paying off, or at least a fraction of it. Hey all, I know I've commented here before with an extensive background and billions of dollars of contract experience in DoD acquisitions. I am now working as a consultant helping companies win US government contracts. Please feel free to shoot me a PM if you have questions. Should this be gold?